Hey guys, welcome into our second ever Contemporary Issues Wednesdays. It was so good last week, it's going to be even better today, I promise. So last week we talked about why Western citizens are reacting against their governments and against institutions. This week we're going to talk about how that reaction is manifesting itself. To start this week's episode off, I thought it'd be really good to tell a story that was shared by Whit Ayers, who was a political strategist for Marco Rubio, and the story goes like this. It's a couple who are in their 50s. He's worked in manufacturing his whole life. She's worked as a part-time job and took care of their kids when they were younger. And they come up to Whit Ayers and they tell him this. We were told all of our lives that if we just worked hard enough, if we stayed consistent, if we just followed our natural principles of hard work and initiative, we would be okay. But a few years ago, my husband's firm closed down and moved offshore, and I have been demoted in my job from 40 hours a week to 20 hours a week. We're too old to get re-educated, we're too young to retire, and we don't know what we're going to do. So there you go. That's a position that a lot of people in the Western world find themselves in. So in looking how different people are reacting, we'll take two different cases. We'll look at the US and then we'll look at Europe. So in the US, you've seen two specific reactions. You've seen the rise of Trump and you've seen the rise of Bernie Sanders. So Bernie presents sort of a leftist answer. It's redistribution of wealth. It's fundamental structural changes to the economy. He's sort of saying, hey, come and join this new revolution. You've been left behind. Let's stick it to the man. So Trump offers a very much a rightist answer, which is, look, all these politicians, all these bureaucrats, they put us in the mess that we're in. I am the one. I'm a businessman. I'm an efficient capitalist. I can come in and sort of strong arm the government into getting all the necessary changes that you require that will make this country a better place. Both of these candidates have been seen as sort of ill-tempered, as sort of brash, sometimes irrational, but they're sort of capitalizing on this growing anger and frustration that's been levied at sort of the political class as people see it. So let's turn to Europe now. The most obvious thing we can talk about is Britain's vote, or their referendum, to leave the EU. So in talking about Brexit and the larger issues facing the EU and America, I kind of want to take some ideas from Glenn Greenwald. He used to be a reporter for The Guardian, now he runs his own sort of website. Greenwald's basic premise is this. The urban elite, so you think of governments, you think of corporations, you think of some academics, you think of some institutions, definitely the media, have all contributed to a system that sort of lower, middle, and lower class voters are sort of rebelling against. You have the intersection of globalization, you have the intersection of the rise of finance, you have the intersection of all these different institutions working together to erode, or at least has perceived to erode, the values and the power of the middle class and the lower middle class and the lower class. Alongside these issues, you get sort of the rightist viewpoint that the leavers really capitalize on, which is this issue of sovereignty, particularly around migration rights. And so you got a lot of arguments around, well, the EU is restricting Britain's sovereignty. The EU is really restricting us in the sense that we can't even say who's allowed in and out of our country. And so we need to take our sovereignty back. We need to take our power back. And if we do this, we can empower particularly you lower class and lower middle class people who feel like this economy and this political society has left you behind. That was sort of the appeal. And you saw that. So many people who were based in London, who had a large stake in being a part of the system, pretty much all voted for staying in the EU. All these other people who've seen their power eroded, who've seen their wealth erode, who've seen their status erode, voted to leave. So let's just pause for a second and take stock. In the last episode, I talked about who are the people that are rebelling against Western society, what are these people rebelling against. Today, I've talked a little bit about how this rebellion is manifesting itself. So now we get to the point, what does the realist think about all this? One of the biggest concerns that I have as the realist here and as someone who's trying to produce some content, some media content, is the way in which the media chooses to present different aspects of this sort of new revolutionary movement on both the left and on the right. So let me present to you a way that I have seen the media or leaders of different political parties across the spectrum present or characterize people on either, let's say the Bernie Sanders left or the Donald Trump right. So people will look at Bernie Sanders supporters and say, oh, they're just a bunch of, self-entitled, pot-smoking, lazy baristas who work part-time and live in their parents' basement. They don't know anything about the real world. They don't even pay any taxes. Now people will cast Donald Trump supporters as, well, they're just a bunch of ignorant, racist, homophobic, xenophobic, terrible people who just love fear and hate and division. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is a very, very simplistic way to cast people who hold different viewpoints and ideas than you. If you're trying to cast Trump supporters or Brexit supporters, or on the flip side, Bernie Sanders supporters or Corbyn supporters in Britain as sort of simplistic and motivated by hatred, then what you're actually doing is you're giving yourselves, the institutions, the media, the corporation, the political elite, you're giving yourself a reason not to self-examine and say, actually, maybe the reason why these people are so angry, maybe the reason why they're revolting so much is because we haven't actually done what we have promised to do. We haven't delivered what we should have delivered. So let me sort of simplify what Greenwald is voicing here and what I agree with. So if someone comes up to me and in a way just kind of accuses me of something, accuses me of being this, that, or the other, I can either do one of two things. I can take that accusation and use it as a moment of sort of self-exploration, sort of become self-aware of any faults that I might have, which who knows might actually make me change and become a better person. Or I can instantly go into defense mode and cast that other person as completely ignorant, as being motivated by bias and hatred, right? If I do the latter option, it means that I completely avoid having to actually do some sort of self-examination. And so that's what Greenwald is accusing sort of the media, the elites of doing. They're just saying, hey, it's much easier to cast Trump supporters as completely racist or to cast Bernie Sanders supporters as completely detached from reality than it actually is to take a step back and do a little bit of self-exploration and examine, oh wait, maybe some of my policies, maybe some of the ways that I've actually conducted myself or these institutions have been wrong. Hey, maybe we actually should reform some of the things, reform some of the policies, reform some of the structure that has caused these divisions, that have caused these sort of feelings of being left behind. And so that's what we're going to try to do here, my realist friends. No matter what your political persuasion is, no matter who you agree with, who you disagree with, who you would vote for, who you would never vote for in a million years, we're going to take all of those ideas, we're going to put them in the pot of rationality. We're going to stir it up with some self-examination and some humility, and then we're going to see if we can't get to some fundamental truths or at least a fundamental understanding of the other side. What we're not going to do is cast them as simplistic barbarians or just completely detached from reality, swimming up in the clouds of pot smoke. That's what we're going to do with this channel. So if you like the sound of that, subscribe. If you really like it, share the videos, and remember, reality always trumps ideology.